Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Billy, Gym City Welding. Today I'm on the road. For the start of this video, I'm going up to one of my most favorite places in the world. That's Restoration World in Huber Heights. I gotta see my buddy Tim. I need him to hook me up.
So what's up? What do you need?
What's up, man? I'm gonna need you to hook me up. 3 of everything. I made a list.
When do you need this stuff by?
Tomorrow, today, now.
Right.
Come on, man. White boys work fast, don't they?
Like bad. But I wanted to take a quick moment to thank all of you for the last couple videos. You guys really showed out big time. I appreciate the love and support, and you guys killed it on the subscribe button and the comments. That's huge for me. It helps people just like you find me and what we're doing here and trying to get these cars back on the road. So again, just a quick shout out. Want to send some love your guys' way, and thank you for all that you do. So in today's episode, we're going to work on the floor pan. This is part 2. I've got the brackets back from blasting, so we'll talk about that and get everything welded on the pan and get it ready to put in the car. So all that and more on this episode. Stay tuned.
Okay, let's go.
Hey everybody, so it's the next day. It's another Sunday fun day here in the garage. So cool little story about yesterday. So you guys just saw that I was up at Restoration World and I was picking up some parts, and I'll show you guys those parts here in just a minute. But something totally unexpected happened. I'm walking through the store and I run into none other than the legendary Pat Burke. For those of you that don't know Pat, Pat was, he used to dance the Mazda B2200 for cool cars in the 90s and 2000s, and I'm sure many other vehicles, but I always looked up to Patrick when I was a kid, and I remember going to the shows and seeing him down on the hot floor and going to battle with all the other competitors and companies and that sort of thing. So it was totally surreal to run into him. What a nice guy, very humble guy. So Pat, if you see this, buddy, thank you for saying hi. It was an honor to meet you. So yeah, so that happened yesterday, but I also picked up some parts and did a little bit of shopping at one of my favorite stores. So let me flip this around and we'll show you what we got. So yeah, like I was saying, I did a little bit of shopping up at Restoration World. I picked up these rear inner wheelhouses. So this would be the inside facing towards the actual trunk itself. I needed these because on my floor pans, where the trunk meets this area, it's shot. It's shot on both sides. And you guys are going to see that in a future episode where I'm going to take and cut off probably most of this lip and use as much of it as I can. Before somebody asks, why wouldn't I just want to use the whole thing? Well, when you're working on the car, most of it is like up in behind the quarter panel, and I'm not totally convinced that I'm going to replace this whole quarter panel yet. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And sorry, I'm having camera issues. So you're going to see these on a future episode. But I also picked up the drain plugs for the floor pan. So I picked up 6 of those guys, 4 for this front pan and 2 for the trunk pan eventually. And then I also picked up the ball studs that go in the gas pedal bracket, which you guys will see that. I'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But this is what we're working on today. We're going to finally get these brackets hopefully welded on today, and I can show you guys how those work in conjunction with the bucket seats if you have a Super Sport or if you're putting buckets in your car. These are the OG seats from my car and all the new subs. If you don't know, this car was originally a silver interior car, so kind of a unique combination, silver with the tuxedo black, but nevertheless, it's the same no matter what color the seats are. So we'll talk about those brackets. And then I made a major blunder when I was talking about this in the first video, but I will get you up to speed on what I discovered, or basically what I remembered after the fact. But we'll talk about that and get this thing going today. So here we go. I also did a little bit of shopping yesterday, balling on a budget at Harbor Freight. I needed some stuff you guys are going to see in a future upcoming episode. I needed these clamps. Well, it was more of a want than a need, because inevitably when I go to put the floor pan in this car and I open up the door, I'm going to have to find a way to clamp down on the floor and the actual rocker panel to weld those in place. So I went ahead and picked up a couple of these long reach locking pliers, and then I picked up another set of these. I've got a couple of these, but this I'm going to use on the front floor pan where it meets the firewall to pinch those together. And this was more of a want than a need too, but this is basically a small portable spot sandblaster, and I'm going to use that to sandblast some of the holes on the sheet metal on the inside of the car for when I go to weld this stuff in place for the final time. And that'll, you know, I'll explain all that in the future. It'll make a lot of sense when you guys see it down the road. And just picked up some crushed glass. Some guys use baking soda because it's a lot cheaper and you can pretty much get it any place, but they had it there and I thought, you know what, $10, I'll try it out. It's not going to hurt nothing. So I picked up that stuff yesterday. Plus, I also picked up a couple things that hopefully one of you are going to have the chance to win. So I am coming up on my 3,000 subscriber, and I can't believe that that's freaking happening. It's so surreal to me. I never thought I'd get that far, and I know I say that every time, but that's for real. 3,000 people watch what I do, and I'm honored and humbled by that. So thank you. But I will be doing a very, very small giveaway. It's going to cost you absolutely nothing, and hopefully somebody can put these items to use. So stay tuned for that. I will be doing a welding episode. Some of you have requested that because of the last video when I talked about the whole lowrider welding thing, and you know, going down that path of trying to show some folks some tricks that I know, and hopefully something that can help you in the long run. So stay tuned for that and more details about the giveaway. Okay, so for those of you that saw the first video in this build series on the floor pan, there's a statement I made I want to correct. So I had made the assumption that it's possible that this vehicle could have had a 4-speed in it at one time. And I'm still not 100% sure that that's not possible. But I will show you the reason why I thought that was possible with this vehicle. God, that's a lot of possibles. Anyways, I also incorrectly marked the shifter bracket mounting points on the the hump for the floor pan. I haven't drilled those holes yet, but basically why I made those mistakes was I hadn't seen this console set up in a while, because I took this out of the car probably close to a year ago, and I had completely forgot that in the opening that I show in the original video for where I thought the 4-speed might have went is probably most likely where the linkage goes through the floor. Now, it's rather a large opening, unusually large, and it looks like it was maybe cut with a torch. So that's why I'm thinking maybe at some point in its life somebody had a 4-speed in this car, but there should be a hole there for this portion of the transmission. And then if I can delicately lift this up without dropping it on myself, when it comes to the shifter, one of the brackets, or the bracket bolt is way out here. So it's not one of the original 4 center ones that I marked. So that's kind of interesting. I'll have to remark that on the floor. But again, that just kind of shows why it's important that you save the surrounding sheet metal that comes with these things until the very end, until you're absolutely 100% done mocking everything up before you throw it away. And of course you can see here, this is where the shifter mechanism comes down through the floor. The hole is underneath this plate where I thought, you know, could have been a 4-speed at one point in its life. And like I said, I'm still not convinced that this car didn't have a 4-speed at some point in its life. A little backstory on this vehicle. The fella I picked it up from said at some point in its life that it did have a big block in it and it was drag raced. So yeah, could they have had a 4-speed? It's possible. But anyways, that's irrelevant. Point is, keep sheet metal, don't throw anything away until you're absolutely positive and sure that it's in the correct mounting location and that you're ready to bolt it in the car. So let's move on to the seat brackets and talk about all the parts that I got blasted recently. So like I mentioned earlier, these are my original buckets for the Super Sport. And what I'm going to show you is I'm going to flip one of these over and we can talk about the bottom brackets that go on these things. So these are straight out of the car and they're pretty rough, not going to lie. this car was off the road for a very long time, and the floor pan, of course, was shot. So, you know, everything's, I promise you, it looks worse than what it is. This is all just surface rust, and the goal is to have these sandblasted and cleaned up. But these are the mounting points. So this would be like your passenger side over here. So, you know, when the brackets line up on the floor pan, this is angled, that's straight, and then, of course, these are flat. So it's pretty self-explanatory where the brackets go. Don't overthink this. The big thing is that you just want to make sure that they're straight on the floor pan when you go to weld everything in place. Now, one of these seats, it could be this one, it could be this one, I don't remember, has a broken little tab that I need to weld. So I will be doing that pretty soon. But again, guys, this is the passenger side. Remember, it tilts inward on the passenger side to the center console, and then you've got the angled brackets that go on the transmission hump on the floor pan. So if you're doing this at home, you're wanting to put buckets in your car, here's the driver. It's going to tilt to the right, which would go towards the console. So this will give the passenger, you know, plenty of room to get into the car and into the back seat area. So speaking of the seats, I've got to show you real quick. My good buddy Ryan, you guys have seen him on the channel. He donated some seat trims to me. I'm thankful for these. These are his old ones. And because my OG ones are pretty bad shape. They're pitted up real bad because they were exposed to water with the floor pan. But I think these are going to clean up great. And we'll probably do a future video on cleaning up those. But in the meantime, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you, buddy. So that's the seat portion. Let's get the brackets and we'll start talking about those and the sandblasting process. Okay, so my buddy Ryan took care of me on some sandblasting, and what I want to talk about with that is there's some pretty revealing things that happen after sandblasting if you've never had any of that done. One of those things I'm talking about was in the last episode I talked about these. These run down the front of the floor pan, excuse me, go up towards the firewall. And remember, I talked about I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to save these. Well, I think I'm going to be able to save these. So these cleaned up okay, pretty decently. There is some, hopefully you can see that on camera, there is some pinholes in the steel that I think I can weld up. And this is one of the tricks that I'm going to talk about in the upcoming episode. So spoiler alert, this is one of those tricks that you guys will see in the next episode, and I'll go more in depth. But basically, if you take a piece of copper, like let's say like a 1 inch, inch and a half, 2 inch pipe cap from like your local Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that, this happens to be part of a bus bar from an old machine. But the point I'm trying to make is if you back that hole with copper, you can actually weld right over top of the copper, and the copper won't stick to it. There's a lot of, I don't know, metallurgy and science involved with that. The skinny of it is that you have ferrous and non-ferrous metals that won't stick together. So something that's magnetic and non-magnetic, and you can weld right over top of that, and once you pull this away, that weld will be flush on the backside, and then all you have to do is just grind the side you're going to see. So that's one of the tricks that we're going to talk about in that upcoming episode. But I think I can save these, thank God, because I initially said these were $100. Now they're $123 now for these little pieces, but I think we're going to be able to make those work. So sandblasting. These are the seat brackets. You have passenger, you have driver, and one of the little tricks is just go and get you some painter's tape, some kind of tape, something that isn't going to like get super sticky. You only need it to stick for, just long enough to blast, but usually this works if you take a little bit of tape and wrap around your threads.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Then you can blast through everything and not worry about messing up the threads. I've already pulled a piece here to show you. This has been blasted, and those threads are pretty much perfect. So no issue there. Of course, if there was an issue, you could always take like your tap and die. You could take the die itself and straighten out the thread and clean it up and whatnot, but everything looks pretty much protected. And I kept some of the original hardware, so you can always put these on, run them back and forth, you know, with a ratchet like this and straighten everything out as well. But the point is, if you have threads, something you don't want to be blasted by the media, you need to put some kind of tape around it to protect it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take and I'm going to bolt these onto the actual brackets, or excuse me, the seats themselves, and then we will line the seats up on the floor pan and get these things positioned right where they need to be. Hey everyone, I'm going to try something new here on the channel. So when I do these quick time-lapse shots, you know, I've got to choose a song for you guys to have to go with it, and I can't stand some of the music. So I'm going to show you what I'm actually listening to in the garage at the same time. Some of these songs you might have heard of before, some of them you might not have heard, but this is what I'm listening to when I'm working on the car. Alright, so here we go. Got them on the floor pan, and look at that. Already putting that new clamp to work. A couple takeaways from this. So my brackets are they were a little, how do I want to say this? They needed some love, let's just put it that way. I had to tack weld one of those on because it had broken off, which I'll be able to fix off camera better. Put the console on, just kind of roughly mocked up where it needs to be, but you get the idea. The trickiest part of this whole thing is trying to figure out, you know, because these things slide. The seats slide on these brackets. Well, excuse me, I got that wrong. There's sliders on both sides of the seats. These obviously don't move. The thing is like, how far does this need to be back or forward compared to this one? Because when I initially took these out of the car, they were just kind of all over the place. That one was pretty much Bluetooth because the floor was just about gone on that side. But I think I've got it figured out. So as you can see, this has a channel, and that's built for that channel. Okay, so, and you see right there, that guy right there, that bracket can only go so far forward in that channel, and then it has to stop. Same here. This is contoured to fit the floor perfectly. So it kind of helps take the guesswork out of the whole thing. Plus you got that ridge right there, so that bracket can only go so far forward. You know, first time I've ever done these, hopefully I've got this right. You know, feel free to chime in down below if somebody's got something they want to add, because I'm not welding these on just yet. We're close. But what I got to figure out now is, see, the pan has those holes, and what I'm thinking is that those holes are probably for a bench seat car, where the brackets would probably come up from underneath the floor, because there's no studs on these to put in those holes. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure that out, but you get the idea, guys. This is kind of what we're looking at. Everything's nice and straight, how it should be. Everything lines up pretty good. So I think I've reached a stopping point for today, and then of course there'll be more in this video, so don't cut out just yet. This is probably just a stopping point for today. So I will bring you back when I get ready to do some more bracket work. So if you guys like me doing these little things where I show what I'm listening to when I'm working on the car, leave me a comment below. Let me know about that, and maybe I'll tell you a little bit about it and why I like these songs. It's amazing. Deftones are still on tour after all these years and still selling out shows, so I always like listening to them in the garage. Well, like the little clip said, it's been 8 days. So the hurricane came through, and then it turned into tropical storm, I guess, like Category 4, and we got hammered here in Ohio. At least where I'm at, we got hammered pretty good. We were out power for 8 days. We had something like 180,000 people without power. That's a long 8 days, but man, I tell you, those folks down in North Carolina, my heart goes out to you. That's a terrible situation. If you're somehow watching this show and you're from down there and lived through that, you know, God bless you, and hopefully you can recover and your families can recover and get back to normal. But in that time period, I did get something in the mail, so big shout out to Livingston Motorsports, the entire family, mom and dad, and the little guy, Dayton. I got to meet this young guy earlier this year at the Those Dudes show and hang out with the whole family and good people. They sent me a little package here, so I'll show you what I got. So they sent me a t-shirt with the Livingston Motorsports Hijacker, Cool Cars, Mike's Fabrication, and all wrapped up on the front. And then on the back side of it, this is their one of their dancers they have. This is the Bronco 2. Like I was saying, I got to meet the little fella Dayton who danced this thing. And I tell you what, that guy has got it down for a young guy. He's pretty cool. And the whole family and everybody's really nice, good people. So shout out to the Livingston Motorsports family. Thank you so much for this. I appreciate it. And if you would like one of these shirts for yourself, be sure to check them out on Instagram. I'll put the link down below for their name. You can look them up. And be sure to tell them Gem City Welding sent you and that you would like to order a shirt from them and support what they're doing. So thank you guys, appreciate that. But as far as this video goes, it's all over the place, so we're just going to try and continue to work on the floor now that we have some power and I have a little bit of free time. I'm going to try and get these seat brackets on and see how far we can get for this video. So thanks again, everyone. Here we go. So I remember when I first heard this song in high school, it absolutely blew me away. I got a chance to see these guys in concert last year at the original Lowrider Chicago tour stop. And it was pretty wild after 30-some years getting to see them finally. But I always liked them. I thought they were just as good as like Twista and Bone Thugs and Harmony and some of those guys. And just had really catchy beats and stuff like that. So, man, one of my favorite songs from my youth. So I've always been a lover of Pink Floyd, and, you know, being a lowrider guy or whatever, I try to stay multi-dimensional. I don't try to box myself in any one thing, and that's kind of what I always looked up to, like with Joe Ray and Lifestyle Car Club. Those guys always listening to old school rock and stuff like that, and it's pretty cool to do that in the garage as well. Okay, so here we are. I got the brackets tacked on. Total disclosure, these are not fully welded on yet. I'm not going to do that until I have this in the car, mock the seats up, sit in the car, check, you know, steering wheel clearance and all that stuff, you know, for the passenger, or excuse me, for the driver, and just make sure everything's dialed in before I say, you know what, this is ready to weld. But they are tacked into place. They're not going anywhere. So I think I'm at a good stopping point for the seats for the moment. Next I'm moving on to this guy here. So if you recall earlier, I mentioned, I think that was this video, maybe it was the last video, I don't remember, but I think this car had a different transmission at one point in its life. So that does not look like a factory cut. Hopefully, you know, somebody can correct me on that, but at any rate, basically the only thing that has to fit for the Super Sport shifter through the floor is this portion here. And you can actually see remnants of a seal back behind the linkage there. So this thing did seal up. I'm assuming that's factory unless someone added that. I really don't know, to be honest with you guys. But what I do know is this portion right here has to fit through the floor. And then you see behind that little, you know, let's call that 3/16 piece of steel. That's all that really has to go through. But unfortunately, you got to get this big ass piece through there, plus the shifter linkage arm. So this has been a bit of a challenge trying to lay out where this hole should go, but I've made it probably just a little undersized. That way I can sneak up on the cut, because I think I actually have to go a little further this way and then up. So long story short, take as many measurements as you can, make a smallest cut possible, trial and fit, just keep trying and trying and trying until it finally fits just how you want it. And I can't stress this enough. It's just steel. If you cut it short, if you cut it too big, you know, your cut's off. It's okay. You can weld it back on, grind it smooth, easy peasy, you know, no problem. So that's where we're at. I'm going to cut this hole. I'm going to test fit this thing as many times as it takes. And we'll see what happens. So again, don't throw your floor away until you're absolutely sure that you don't need it anymore. Once I get that part done, then we'll put the console brackets back on, and we'll call it good for this portion. So here we go. Like Tweet says in the King of Chevys podcast, you got to have some oldies playing, and this is one of my favorites of all time. I remember hearing this song when I was a kid in the movie Christine, and changed my life forever. Amazing song. And then, of course, you got the Lakesiders Parachutes. So I don't think they're actually together anymore. The female vocalist in this song, I think she went on to join The Sinceres, and I don't think they are no longer a group. If somebody knows that, correct me or tell me in the comments. But no matter what, love this song. Great vibe. Okay, so now that I finally got that mocked up, everything looks really good. The shifter moves just as it should. Brackets line up. So we're going to move on to the gas pedal itself. So I had said earlier on that I didn't think that I was going to be able to remove the ball studs that go on the gas pedal. I was able to remove them, but they are completely shot. So today we're going to save the bottom bracket that would go underneath the floor pan, and then I actually have some replacement gas pedal ball studs. Part number B634990. You get these at Restoration World, so hit them up, tell them I sent you. But I'm going to save the plate. We'll get rid of this, and my floor pan actually has holes in it for this bracket and the ball studs itself. But let's say you buy a floor pan, eBay or whatever supplier you choose, and it doesn't have those studs. If you can at least cut this portion of your floor out, if it's still there, it's somewhat intact. Basically all you need is this indentation or bend in the sheet metal, and you can lay that pretty much right over your floor, and it will line up and center itself. I mean, that's rock solid. That's not going anywhere. So another great example is of why you need to save your floor pieces until the absolute end. So I've got a good place to show me where that goes. I'm going to take care of that. And if you'll notice, I've already got these welded on. So those are in place. I know exactly where those go. Those fit pretty good. And I'll have to put the floor plugs in, which I need to get some bolts for those. I want to say those are 1/4 I could be totally wrong about that. I got to double check. But I've got the 4 plates. And that's just going to about wrap up what we're doing, except for the front underneath floor braces. And I'm going to try and get those fixed up. So let's just keep moving. Here we go. So I'm just making an 1/8 inch hole here. And then if you want to, you can step up to like a 3/16 or something like that. But that's pretty much the perfect size for a spot weld when you go to do things like this. Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me. There's background noise. If there is, I'm sorry about that. But here we are. We're at one of the final steps to prepping the pan before I actually try to fit this thing in the car. So back a couple episodes when I did the tool episode, I talked about this guy right here. This is a Roper Whitney hand punch. And I told you in that video that, you know, this is probably one of the most valuable tools you can have in your arsenal if you're doing sheet metal. That is no lie. That is the truth. This thing is very versatile and great for doing sheet metal when you have to do repeating plug welds over and over and over again. The cool thing about this tool is that it comes with multiple different size holes that you can punch, and it also comes with a depth stop. So if I adjust this gauge right here, that will tell me how much I can go in with the sheet metal. So that would be the throat of the punch. And this one is a fully adjustable, which makes it nice. Plus, you can make this adjustable depending on how much clamping pressure you need to be able to punch through and to put your hole in your sheet metal. So for this one, this is a pretty thin gauge stuff. So we're gonna go about right there, and I can adjust it from that point on. But definitely get yourself a silver Sharpie or something that will allow you to mark your panel. That way you can see it perfectly every time. And then when it comes to actually laying out the holes, I got to give a shout out to Bobby. Those of you know Bobby from the Lone Star channel, goes by Rusty Miho on Instagram. This is the 4-finger technique. So one of his videos he was doing is he was doing some rocker repair, I think, on his 62. And basically he just made a spot and then he laid his 4 fingers out, put the next spot, and the next spot, and the next spot, all the way down. And you know what? It's pretty much perfect. It's a cool little thing to have, and because you could spend all day with a tape measure laying these things out exactly perfect. But let's be honest, they didn't do that at the factory. They just go, 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 because they got to make them quick. So shout out to Bobby. Thank you for your technique, brother. We're going to use it here today on this, but I'm basically going to go around and punch all these holes. The only holes that I won't be punching are up on the firewall portion, because I've actually punched the holes in the firewall itself, the little lip that will meet up to. So no need to put holes in the front of this part of the floor pan. But as far as the sides and the back go, we got to put holes all the way around, because of course the sides sit on the rocker. This side will sit on where the passenger seat area is, footwell area. So that's right there. There's a brace right there. Remember, our convertible mount is underneath this too. So we know that's a good spot we can weld to and basically tack these things on. So let's go, let's cut to the time lapse. Here we go. So last song for the video. This song, man, it holds a special spot for me. Love soul music, and I tell you, the lyrics to this song, people just don't talk like this anymore, and I always thought it was a great song. I hope you like it too. Be sure to check it out. Okay, everyone, so here we are. Pretty much, for the most part, a finished floor pan. I went ahead and put the drain plugs to show you guys where they go. I'm sure everybody knows that, but this gives you a visualization of what we're talking about. Plus, I've got these front ones, got those in, got that guy welded on with the ball studs. So the only thing that's really left to do on this before I put this thing in the car is, one, I need to make the repairs for these and weld those on, but I'm going to save those for the welding episode. Which reminds me, during the 8 days without power, I actually hit 3,000 subscribers. So big shout out to all of you. Thank you so much for that. We'll be doing a welding episode very soon, and I do have a giveaway for that, so stay tuned for those details. I don't know if it'll be the next video after this or after the following video, but it'll be soon, I promise. So again, thank you for that. 3K subscribers. Never would have thought it would happen, but here we are. So and the last thing is, I don't have the floor braces marked out on this floor pan. They're actually still in the car, which those of you that are new to the channel and following along can see that there they are. So what I need to do is I need to take this floor pan, put it in the car, crawl underneath, and take my little silver Sharpie and draw right around the brace where it's at on the floor. That way I can flip this thing over, drill the holes, lay the floor pan back over the braces, and be able to spot weld all around all those braces. So we're talking 1, 2, 3. So, well, that's a single one, but anyways, 3 on that side, basically 3 on this side, middle section. And that will cover that portion of it. And then, I don't know if all Impalas are this way, but the 64 is. This guy right here, this bracket, I've got to figure out how that goes on the pan before I progress any further welding this thing in solid. And I gotta probably fabricate one for this side, because I don't think they make those replacement pieces. And my driver's side one was completely gone from rust. So other than that, marking those, I should be able to hopefully put this thing in once, take it out, and then put it back in for the final last time. You won't see that in this video. You'll probably see an upcoming one. This one's just getting to be too long because it's been all over the place, but you know, that's how it goes sometimes. My channel is more like a vlog. It's not really a build, series in any way, shape, or form. But that's where we're at today. Got a lot of work done. I appreciate all your patience waiting for the next episode for this. So hopefully I will be seeing you here again very soon, and we'll be installing this thing on the car. So until next time, we will see you on the next episode of Gem City Welding.